Hi, my name's Kris Burton. I'm going to talk through a technique called reamping and echo chamber recording. I'm going to be working on a track called Lost in a Moment with a singer called Jasmine Knight. What I want to do is bring some analog texture and tone to a few of the features in the track, and yeah, just try and make it sound big and sound great. Okay, so what I want to do with this technique is some reamping and some echo chamber recordings. And what I've done is I've bounced out from a Logic session which is on my laptop, and I've created a Pro Tools session with some stems, and I want to run those stems through the SSL desk, apply a bit of EQ, maybe a bit of compression, and use the effect sends that are going to send out of the desk into the live room next door, and they're going to go into a Fender Twin amp. So the signal is going to pass through into a Fender Twin amp using a reamp box, which is dropping the level to an instrument level, and then that's going to fire out into the room, and it's going to be picked up on two close mics. I've got an SM57 which is going to pick up like a higher frequencies and more of an edgy sound at the top of the frequency range, and then I've got a D12 microphone which is going to pick up some of the lower frequencies from the amp. Also, I'm firing that amp out into the corridor, and in this building the corridors are really reflective and have got a really nice bright creamy sound, and I've got two KM183 Omni Neumann microphones which are going to pick up a stereo image with that. So first thing I'm going to do is just pick a couple of sounds, and I'll just play the sequence as it is without the reamp sound and the echo chamber. It's going to sound a bit like this. And I've picked a couple of sounds. One of them is a vocal sound which sounds like this, which sounds a bit kind of trippy, a bit kind of dreamy, which I really like, but I just want to give it a bit more of an edge to the sound. So using my effects M1, I'm going to send that into my reamp. You might be able to see the meters there. You can see I've got a signal coming in. I've set my mic preamp levels. So I'm going to try my SM57 mic. Which you can kind of just hear. In fact, if I turn off the dry sound, get that into a good place. I just want to get my levels coming through nicely. So that's my SM57. I've got the D12, and then I've got my chamber, which you can really hear there. So I'm going to capture them all at the same time. So I've got the close mics for that edgy sound of the amp, the Fender Twin, and then the chamber to get that big kind of reverb sound. Cool, so I'll play that in the mix. And while I'm there, I'm also going to send through some of the drum breaks. And one thing I really like about the reverbs you get in guitar amps, which are spring reverbs, is that they sound quite dirty and quite characterful and colourful, which kind of makes me think about that jungle sound. You know, when they were trying to create those breaks back in the day, they were using lo-fi equipment. So I just really like the sound of kind of spring reverb. So if I just play the breaks through. If I play that into the amp. So that's the two close mics. And then I'm going to record the chamber as well. And if I play that all at the same time, If I mute them, mute the chamber mic and the reamp. Okay, if you know, I might not use the full sound, all four mics, but I might just blend that sound in, particularly like the low frequencies can kind of get in the way and create a bit of mud. But actually, you know, it's bringing a lot of life to that sound. So, so what I need to do first is, when I'm capturing it, I'll capture them just a single stem. So the first thing I'll do is the Vox Atmos. So I'll take the drums out and I'll just record that in. As you can see in Pro Tools at the moment, I've got my SM57, D12 and the KM183s. I'm actually, and you'll see this, I'm actually capturing the corridor, so sometimes you get people walking around and there's a lift, so sometimes you have to go and tell people, can you not walk around please, because it's analog, which is part of the beautiful thing about it, but obviously analog has its limitations as opposed to in the box. So I usually just start that from the top and you can see that coming in. In fact, if I take the breaks out and just send the vocals by themselves, I can play the whole track and it will just capture what's coming through my mics. Should I just leave that? Yeah. Cool, so I'm also going to do the drum breaks. Turn off the sends from the Vox Atmosphere I just recorded. I'll just solo those for the moment. You see, actually, the echo chamber reverbs may be a little bit too much for that. So, but I'm really digging the close mics on that amp. They're just adding a little bit of bite to it. We're having a listen in the mix. That's without. And that's with. And I just add a combination of different features actually. I've got a couple of synths on there actually that I wouldn't mind reamping, so I'll just play and see what they sound like actually. Sounds great. Nice. Rave up. Cool, yeah, and I actually go through all of the tracks and just see what works. I mean, sometimes you can overlap it too much and layer it up too much that it just becomes quite blurry, but actually, you know, with a bit of EQ in there, it can sound great. And obviously you can go and tweak the amp as well, so you can add some more treble to the amp, or low frequencies, or you can notch off some of the low frequencies, or add a bit more reverb from the spring reverb. So there's lots you can do with this technique. So this technique is actually very easy to do without this equipment. You don't need an SSL desk, you don't need racks of equipment like this. You could do it with a simple the simple interface and just using a guitar amp. So as long as you've got an output from your interface, you can plug into your amp. We are using a reamp box here, which lowers the level from line level to instrument level, which you should do a bit of research on. But basically, if your line level signal is going into the amp, then you need to be running your amp very quietly because it's a loud signal. So, but anyway, you can use an interface to run any sounds out into your amp, and then a simple mic. I've got an SM57 in there, you know, a £100 microphone on the amp, and you can pick up the tone and distortion from that amp. So, and I'd say that all amps have a unique sound, a bit like microphones, you know, they're picking up different tones, different distortions. So yeah, you could use a very simple setup to do reamping.